The Sony A6400 is a fantastic camera. It's one of the most exciting cameras of the year, and it's one of my personal favorites. Today what we're going to talk about is my 8 top tips and tricks to get the most out of your A6400. Let's get started. What's up everyone, I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. Let's hop into it. So again, the A6400 is a fantastic camera. My first tip is, if you're using this outside a lot like I do, the auto exposure mode is a very powerful one, and it's really good on the A6400. One of the things though is, how do you dial in exposure, especially if you're gonna do auto mode? So here's my tip for what I do. So I put my ND filter on. I love the little adorable ND filter you can get for the kit lens. I always like using aperture priority mode, so make sure you pop it into aperture priority mode. What that does is it keeps your aperture constant, and it moves your shutter speed and your ISO around to make sure you have proper exposure. So like right now you can see we are currently not properly exposed. We're doing 30 frames per second, so we want our shutter speed to be at 1/60th. So this is just purely for demonstrational purposes. So what you can do when you're in aperture priority mode, let's say you're outside or something, the light is very bright and you've got an ND filter on. What you can do is you take the ND filter and you dial it in until you see that you see the shutter speed as we're turning up the ND. The shutter speed is going down to match the 1/60th, because 1/60th is where you get the proper amount of motion blur. Tip number 1 for auto exposure: get an ND filter, and when you're outdoors, put it in aperture priority mode and then just dial the ND filter in, and then when it hits 1/60, you'll know you're good. Tip number 2, let's talk about turning on. One of the very big benefits of the A6400 is the ability to tap and focus and tap to track. But those are not turned on standard. You have to go in and turn those settings on yourself. So the first thing you'll want to do if you don't have any of the settings on is you want to go to Setup 3, turn on touch operation. That's what lets you use the back of the monitor. That's what lets you use the rear screen to tap to do things. Once you have that turned on, then we can turn on tap to focus. Something we're finding out right now is you can't do it when you plugged into a monitor. So the menu you're going to go into, hopefully you can see it on the rear camera there, it's Custom Operation 2. Under movie mode, you go down to function of touch operation. You go in there and you get the option of touch to shutter. So do you want to touch, take a picture? Do you want to touch just for focusing? Or do you want to do touch and tracking? The touch tracking option on the A6400 is the most important. Like, that is one of the most incredible things that the A6400 has. So if you follow those 2 steps, you'll be able to get your own tap to track pretty quick. Tip number 2, and it's the way that I get all of my image out of the A6400, or heck, even my A7 III behind me. Like any Sony camera, I immediately do this. And if you've seen any of my videos, you hear me talk about Picture Profile 1. Well, this is how you get to Picture Profile 1. You go in the photography mode, you go all the way over to Color White Balance Image Processing 1. You see you've got picture effects, that's like all of the cool like Instagram filters, you can do all that crazy stuff. But what I like is the picture profile. Now you get a whole bunch of stuff. If you want to shoot in log mode, you do that here too. With some of the other profiles, we'll do the HLG, the Hyperlog Gamma. You get the S-Log, S-Log 2, S-Log 3. But the only thing that I do is I go straight to PP1. Like, you can change a whole bunch of other stuff about it. I don't. I think Picture Profile 1 is one of the best picture profiles ever in any camera. So that's it. Like, that's all you have to do to set up the camera to get really good looking image quality. Like, it's Picture Profile 1, amazing. Another big thing, and this is one of the new things with like the A7 III and the A6400, and that is recording with the shutter button. So if you've ever used an A6300, I used one of those for a while, and you just can't, like, you have to use this crappy record button here on the back. Most other camera companies like Panasonic or Canon or any of those, once you're in movie mode, all you have to do is hit the shutter button and get going. Whereas that's new here on Sony cameras. It's super exciting. So let's show you how to turn that on. Because once you turn that on, like, you don't really need, you used to have to use one of the custom buttons to be a recording button. You don't have to do that here. I like a lot of the features that they're coming out here. So we go over to the movie menu, we go over to movie number 3 with movie with shutter. Turn that on, and then all you have to do, hit record straight from the shutter button. Now that doesn't sound like crazy here. Oh, trust me, for those of us that used older Sony cameras, that's incredible. Another really big benefit of the A6400 over the A6400 is this rear monitor brightness. So we're gonna unplug, let's stop the Atomos recording. So this is one of the best parts of this camera. One of the things that really stunk about the A6500 was when you started doing 4K, the screen dimmed that you just couldn't see it. But on the A6400, you can turn it up to what's called daylight mode. And let me tell you, even in bright daylight, you will be able to see it. So you go over to setup one, and again, it's not gonna work because we're here, but you see right here, monitor brightness. Let's unplug, let's stop you recording. Let's unplug from you. So monitor brightness, you click on it, you go to sunny weather, and look at how, can you guys see how bright that is? Like, that is crazy, crazy bright. And when you are outside, you will not miss anything because you will be able to see what is going on. Like, that is one of the best features. The screen itself is one of the best features of the A6400, but being able to make it so you can see it outside, super useful. Tip number 6 involves like something that's very powerful about Sony cameras, and it's called clear image zoom. So what that does is it allows you to take prime lenses and turn them into lossless zoom. It gives you the ability to reach a little farther with your prime lenses. When it comes to a camera like this A6400 or any of the APS-C Sony cameras, they have some very powerful Sigma lenses. Like this is the Sigma 16mm 1.4. And with the clear image zoom, oh, it lets you turn it into a mini zoom lens, which is just, it's awesome. I love some of this functionality. So the way you do that, we're gonna do it 2 ways. So I'm gonna show you how to do it, but then I'm gonna show you how to set it to a custom button to make it even faster. So you go over to the movie menu system, over to the zoom setting. So zoom setting, you have the choice between only doing optical zooming. So if you have a lens that does zooming, it will only be able to zoom out to its optical level. You can do clear image zoom, or you could do digital zoom. Digital zoom I would not recommend. It's where you zoom in, but you'll lose image quality. Clear image zoom is where you do not lose image quality for zooming in. So you just click that to turn it on. Now the way that I would use it is you got that custom button, right? So we'll go over to the custom operation. So custom key. Go over to the top, set that top button. Again, you get so many options of what you can do here. What I use it for is I turn it on zoom, which means when you go back to like the regular screen, you hit the custom button. Now you can do clear image zoom where you do not lose image quality, and you can do a 2x zoom. Like that is crazy impressive. When you're doing 4K, it's only 1.5 times. But that lets you turn this 16 into a 1.5, 24mm. But since it's a 24mm, you kind of get like a 30, 35mm. So you get a 24 and a 35mm prime lens all in one lens because of this zoom functionality. I love it. Digital clear image zoom is one of the best things Sony's ever come up with. The last 2 tips are not necessarily tips in and of themselves. They're really like things that I would recommend you get to increase the functionality of your camera. The first one being the 16-50 kit lens. I know this is not like the most optically sound lens, but look at how small this thing is. This is a 16-50, or if you're using that clear image zoom, you can get even farther, but it's tiny, it has optical stabilization built into it, and when you're out and about as an online content creator using this, nobody cares. I mean, it basically fits in your pocket as a very powerful travel camera. So I always recommend this kit lens over the standard Sony kit lens because it's about this big and you just can do so much more. It may not be the best image quality, yes. It's also one of the only power zoom lenses that Sony has for APS-C. So always get the 16-50 kit lens or just buy it used for like less than $100. But that's tip number 7. Get this kit lens. Tip number 8, the final tip, is also something that you should buy, and it's something like this. This is a dual camera mount. I forget exactly what it's called, but I bought this on Amazon for like $5. One of the negatives about the A6400 is when you want to use the flip-up screen, you'll lose the ability to mount like an audio device or like a microphone or a wireless receiver on top because, you know, you want to see the screen, right? So the way that I get around it is I bought this little guy, and then you can mount your audio device right next to it. It all goes straight on a tripod. It costs like $5. It doesn't need any extra batteries. It doesn't need any extra anything. You just plug it in. You just hook it up, plug it in, you're good to go. Like, this is one of the things that makes this whole camera even really usable. Now, if you're using it for vlogging, will this work? Probably not, but for those of us that just use a lot of static shots, this little bar, it's so good. I use it for everything, not just for this video, but this is okay. First, like YouTube in general tip, buy one of these. This is one of the most useful things I could ever imagine owning. So those are my 8 tips and tricks on how to get the most out of your Sony A6400. But I'm curious, what are some of your tips and tricks? Leave a comment below. I'm curious to see what you guys are doing to get the most out of your Sony cameras. Thanks for watching.